Good Tuesday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Breaking news this morning, President Trump is ending temporary protected status for Somalia, which will affect thousands of Somalis currently living in the U.S. Somali migrants with TPS will be required to leave the country by March 17th. That's according to a social post by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Somali people have been at the center of the recent immigration enforcement surge in the Twin Cities after national attention on fraud in Minnesota involving some members of the Somali community. Now, the U.S. has recognized Somalia as being eligible for TPS in 1991. It's often offered to immigrants from certain countries that are impacted by safety conditions like natural or man-made disasters. Happening right now, Minnesota's leaders are suing the federal government to end Operation Metro Surge. The state's attorney general, along with Minneapolis and St. Paul's mayors, accuse DHS of violating the Constitution with their Operation Metro Surge. They're asking a judge for a temporary restraining order blocking ICE agents from operating in the Twin Cities. The Trump administration says the flood of ICE agents is meant to crack down on undocumented immigrants and fraud in Minnesota. But AG Keith Ellison argues that ICE agents are targeting schools, businesses, and even funeral homes by racially profiling immigrants, most of whom he says are here legally. City leaders claim ICE agents are draining resources and putting people in danger.
We don't use the word invasion lightly. What we are seeing is thousands, plural, thousands of federal agents coming into our city. And yeah, they're having a tremendous impact on day-to-day life. And it's a negative one. And whether that's kids that are trying to get to school or businesses that are trying to open, that's police officers that are responding to 911 calls. It's just about being able to conduct daily life right here in our city.
In response to the lawsuit, a White House spokesperson called it a pathetic stunt. State Republicans echoed that, calling the suit a waste of the state's resources. This morning, the Department of Homeland Security is responding to this now viral arrest at a Target in Richfield. You can see agents arresting two workers just inside the store's front doors. This happened late last week. Now, DHS reshared the video on their X account, saying this individual was arrested for assaulting federal law enforcement officers. The original post saying ICE grabbed a 17-year-old Target worker at his job. So right now, KARE 11 is working to independently confirm who the men are and why they were detained. We'll keep you updated. Today, more school walkouts are planned across the metro in protest of ICE. This is video of student protests at Maple Grove, Roseville, and Roosevelt High School yesterday. And while schools are back in session after some canceled last week due to ICE activity, the Minneapolis district is now also offering remote learning for another month. Some parents are also organizing to keep watch outside of 35 different schools during pickup, drop-off, and at several bus stops, along with providing food donations and rides to work.
It's really hard for a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader to learn online, and parents who have been through that know that. And for some families it was super clear. It was like, nope, my whole family's staying home, we are doing e-learning.
Now, St. Paul Public Schools says it's also considering a temporary virtual option and will provide updates if there's any new information. This morning, we're hearing from those who knew Renee Good well. She is the woman who was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis last week. For the first time, we're hearing from one of Good's former classmates and a choir teacher at a Colorado high school. The two of them shared memories and music during a protest over the weekend.
She asked me to play for her wedding. I went to the shower of her firstborn baby. Not many students asked me to play for them, so this is pretty special.
She was an alto and I was a soprano, so we got to do lots of duets together. Renee and I had a big shared love of kind of indie movies, so we actually went to Kimball's down the street and saw we were really cool high schoolers. We went and saw all the indie movies.
So both of them say they're still processing the loss and says it feels really surreal to see Renee's picture all over the country. Make sure you stick with KARE 11 as we continue to monitor ICE enforcement throughout the Twin Cities and the state, on air, online, and streaming right here on KARE 11 Plus. More of your headlines right now. Developing in Brooklyn Park, police are investigating a shooting at an apartment complex near 76 and Kentucky Avenue North. This was the scene around 3 a.m. Police tell us that one man was shot at a party and taken to the hospital. They're looking for two people they believed were involved. And turning to this now, a man is in jail on murder and attempted murder charges after a double stabbing in St. Anthony over the weekend. According to charges, police responded to a call around 5 a.m. on Friday. They found a man dead in an apartment complex hallway and a teenage boy inside with an apartment with serious injuries. So according to the charging documents, the teenage boy told police they heard their neighbor, Jonathan Kaupa, using a saw in the apartment hallway in the middle of the night. Charges say when they told him to stop, he then attacked them. Prosecutors say Kaupa fled before police arrived, took a ride share to his parents' house in St. Paul, and then used their car to drive to northern Minnesota. Police arrested him in Hinckley. Happening right now, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is slamming the motives for the Justice Department's criminal inquiry into the central bank. And some Republicans are also raising concerns here. Several GOP lawmakers said the inquiry could undermine the Fed's independence. President Trump has frequently criticized Powell for not lowering interest rates quickly enough, but the White House denies the president sought this investigation. NBC's Alice Barr has details from Washington.
Hi there. Worth noting, the Federal Reserve did lower interest rates 3 times in 2025, a move Chairman Powell says was motivated by economic conditions, not pressure from President Trump, who wants deeper rate cuts. And Powell argues that pressure is what's now behind the criminal probe.
This morning, political pushback over the Justice Department's investigation into Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, with a series of Republican lawmakers voicing concerns.
I know Chairman Powell very well. I will be stunned. I will be shocked if he has done anything wrong.
Chairman Powell himself announced the Federal Reserve had been subpoenaed, he says tied to his congressional testimony in June about costly pre-planned renovations to the Fed's headquarters in D.C. that shot from $1.9 to $2.5 billion. Though not taxpayer money, President Trump has slammed the overruns, while also repeatedly pressuring Powell to lower interest rates.
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates.
The chairman calling that pressure the true source of the criminal inquiry with the Federal Reserve.
Setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Now, in a joint statement, all living former Fed chairs and several Treasury secretaries warning the DOJ inquiry threatens the Federal Reserve's independence and risks hurting the U.S. economy and inflation. The White House denies President Trump sought the investigation, and the president told NBC News he would not try to pressure Powell that way, adding, quote, "What should pressure him is the fact that rates are far too high. That's the only pressure he's got." The U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., Jeanine Pirro, posted that her office contacted the Federal Reserve to discuss renovation cost overruns and Powell's testimony, but were ignored, necessitating the use of the legal process.
NBC News has new reporting that, according to a person familiar with the matter, the Federal Reserve received 2 emails from Pirro's office in December around the holidays, and that the emails did not have a sense of urgency and did not mention anything about a criminal investigation. Another source tells NBC News Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent voiced frustration with the investigation to President Trump and believes it's a distraction. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Now, the DOJ action has been widely criticized, with 3 former Fed chairs and several Treasury secretaries issuing a statement concerned it threatens the independence of the Federal Reserve and the public's perception of that independence.
We've learned that those practices are really important, that monetary policy should be conducted by experts, by a committee of experts who are independent of the political process but accountable in a democracy to the public. And that has proved enormously successful.
Now, the White House press secretary is saying that President Trump did not instruct the Department of Justice to investigate Powell, but that the president has made it very clear that he believes Jerome Powell is bad at his job. An important recall alert this morning. The FDA has upgraded the danger level to the highest it goes for various cheese products over listeria concerns. The recall includes 8 cheese products from the company Ambriola sold between November 3rd and the 20th. So if you have any of these products and take a good look at them, do not use them, throw them away, or return them for a refund. Our January thaw is in its second day. It's already a warm start to a warmer than average day, and because of that, Minneapolis park crews say they'll be out working to clear park paths. The Minneapolis Parks and Rec Board says the recent freeze-thaw cycle has left very icy conditions out there. Crews are planning to apply sand to paths out there today. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.